Serious, what is the fastest way you have seen someone ruin their life? A close friend of my best friend grabbed his 8-year-old son's new skateboard and took off down a hill in Georgia. Hit a rock, landed on his head and had permanent brain damage. He lived years before he mercifully died. Had to be restrained the whole time because the damage made him erratic and violent. Wear a helmet. I'm a lawyer. Another well-respected lawyer in my jurisdiction was involved in an absolutely huge property settlement involving dozens upon dozens of deeds, side agreements, financial documents, yada yada yada. The whole lot, presumably involving literally 100 or so signatures, had been signed off by her client. In the early hours of the morning, having no doubt slaved away for untold hours getting everything ready for the settlement the next day, she must have realized that she had missed getting one signature on one minor document from her client, so she faked it. I can see the pressure she was under and how she probably thought, it doesn't matter, my client would have signed it anyway and only didn't because they overlooked it, no one will ever notice. Someone noticed and she went from high-paid property lawyer to never being able to practice again. Just like that. People occasionally ask me to sign things off, as a lawyer, and suggest I overlook minor irregularities such as wanting me to witness a signature even though I didn't actually see the signatory sign. Then they get all offended and act like I'm being a stick-up-the-ass perfectionist when I won't do it. Watched a guy gamble $30,000 away in a night and then cried about losing his life savings, and security had to get involved and escort him out because he started to get angry at the dealers because all they could offer him was free night stays at the hotel for playing so much, but he wanted free play at the tables/slots and they refused. Dude I know won a $3 million settlement from being hit by a car. Spent it all on heroin and was dead within 3 years. Under 30 years old. Edit, wow, this really blew up. To answer some of the questions I see in the thread dash. I don't think he got hooked on opioids due to the accident. This guy did a lot of weed and shrooms and occasionally coke even before the settlement, the money just allowed him to graduate to heroin. How'd he spend all that money? Sadly, he had a bunch of addict friends who he enabled. He'd treat them to free heroin at these lavish parties. My cousin, 18 female, finished her senior year early, so she was basically just waiting for May to do the graduation and get her diploma. She worked at a lake restaurant and had started hanging out with a bad crowd. At this time she had been smoking a lot of weed and drinking, as well as just being generally reckless all the time. She was my best friend, so she texted me to tell me about everything she did basically. One night she texted me to tell me that she had tried meth and it was the best high of her life, but she will never do it again. Exactly 1 month after that text she overdosed and died. They put her portrait in her graduation seat and her dad got to walk and pick up her diploma. I posted this once before. I had a friend that had a promising career, got upset and went into full road rage for a woman who forgot to turn her blinker on, and he slightly bumped her back bumper on the freeway, causing her to lose control and flipping over and killing the driver and her 2 daughters. Oddly, it was all caught on his car dash cam and a trucker with his own dash cam that was behind him. He is now doing 40+ years in prison. Post update. I wasn't expecting much attention on this story. Additional details that people keep asking me. I can't say we were close friend or good friends. We hung out during high school years. I may have seen him a couple times afterwards. He moved out of state. Most information I got was from his sister. I do know that he is in jail for what he did. Now I'm not sure if his sister is not giving me the full story, but I do know he definitely received high jail sentence. I know he went to college for marketing. I believe he was interning for a high-end sports marketing company. My sister started doing meth and heroin. She went from super smart to completely dumb. By the age of 19 she was already a felon. No one in the family wants to help her anymore cause each time we tried, either sending her to rehab or tried getting her sober, she would just go back to it. Was supposed to go to college but now she's 22 and stays at different people's houses and begs people for money. Completely cut me and everyone else off from her cause she thinks us trying to help her is us being jealous and not wanting her to be happy in life. I wound up having to change the number for my first real cell phone, because the previous owner of that number still kept giving it out. Apparently she had just moved, and her old job couldn't get a hold of her to send her her last check. Her new job couldn't get a hold of her to get her schedule. Her vet couldn't get her to pick up her cat. I got calls from her leasing company who needed documentation to secure her apartment. Every single day was some new way an idiot was fucking up her finances, her housing, her job, her pets, her social life, all because she couldn't remember her new phone number. After a month I finally got fed up and had the number changed. Melissa, if you were supposed to be a massage therapist for the PGA Tour in 2013, I hope you eventually got your shit together. An acquaintance. He had a good job, nice truck, mortgage on a nice home, minimal debt, in a relationship with someone out of his league. Before I knew him he'd had a DUI, but his attorney got him a plea deal that dropped the DUI down to a minor charge. A real lucky break. All he had to do was stay the course. He could have walked home that night. It was less than 2 miles. But he was too proud to leave his truck at the bar, so instead he wrapped it around a power pole. No one was hurt, including him. The judge who got his case was furious to learn his previous DUI had been pled down. The judge rejected a plea deal and vowed to throw the book at him. There was prison, then a year on house arrest. His job required a driver license, so that was gone. I don't know at what point in his house arrest he could have started working, but he refused to. His former employer offered him a non-driving job, less money but still good money. He turned it down because it was beneath him. He said the same thing to 2 jobs his girlfriend single-handedly secured for him. Even after his house arrest, he refused to work. He said he didn't want to. Apparently yelling at his girlfriend to pay his mortgage was better than working. She finally got the courage to leave. His parents found him dead. No one will ever know if he intended to drink himself to death or whether it just happened. His parents blamed the girlfriend. Apparently the world would still be graced by his presence if she had stayed to get hit and yelled at. Please don't drive drunk. Not ever. Not even a little. If you're not sure, just don't. And if you suspect you have the disease of addiction, please get help. I don't really care that this person died, but he hit a lot of innocent branches on the way down. A lot of suffering for no reason. A friend of mine drove his bike without helmet, had the helmet, didn't bother to wear it. It was late at night, we were having a party at my home and he was coming to join us. It had rained earlier so the roads were wet. His motorbike unfortunately slipped and he fell, hitting his head on the curb. Some passerby called the ambulance. We got to know about it early in the morning from his parents. His head trauma caused him to go into a coma. He never came back from it. He was in a coma for a few months and then sadly passed away. He was a chill dude, if only he wore the helmet while driving. Rest easy Delson. Edit. He was an avid biker, drove his bike across the country all the way to the Himalayas. He used to wear helmet all the time except for that fateful night. I was having a party at my home, barbecue/beer/whiskey and all that. He was gonna join us after work. He had the helmet on him even that day. I will never know why he decided to not wear it that day. My father-in-law is 65. Was married to his wife for 37 years and has 3 daughters. The picture-perfect family from the outside looking in. He was well respected in his career field and was also an interim pastor/deacon at our local church. After he retired, his health started to deteriorate drastically and he started drinking. This past November we learned that he had fell for a love scam on Facebook and had spent his entire life savings, took out a second mortgage on his home, and opened up numerous credit cards to send this fake person money. All in all, he sent them roughly $300,000. He was truly convinced she was going to move here from overseas and they were going to ride off into the sunset, leave everything behind, and live happily ever after. Now he is divorced. Lives in a crummy apartment about 45 minutes from his family, and is miserable. He can barely walk and has essentially zero control over his bowel movements. To make matters worse, he has very narcissistic tendencies and thinks that none of it is his fault, and instead blames his ex-wife, claiming that she didn't love him and show him any affection. As you can imagine, this has affected my wife, her sisters, and mother immensely, and caused all sorts of problems and stress over the last 8 months. But long story short, he lost everything. His assets, his family, his health, and happiness. I would be shocked if he's even alive a year from now. Knew a guy in the military that had 18 years in, and was doing online classes to get his MBA. He was in his final semester of getting his MBA, and 2 years away from a military retirement. Then he traveled 1,500 miles across the country to try hook up with a 15-year-old girl. Spent 2.5 years in prison, was kicked out of the military and his college he was attending. I'm not entirely sure if he could pick up where he left off to get his MBA at the same college, or a different one, but that's probably useless for him anyways now since he's a convicted felon. I don't think having an MBA is going to make employers overlook your felony for trying to have sex with a minor. An old customer got fired from Uber and DD for being slow/arriving with cold food way too often. Comes into my bar the next day with limited edition XO weekend sweater plus jeans, new Apple Watch and new iPhone, all paid cash. Says he took out a payday loan for $10,000 and doesn't intend to pay it back, he'll just cancel the bank account. His exact words, "Who needs credit anyways?" He stopped showing up to the bar after about 3 months, never saw him again. Colleague starts out great at new job, gets through probation, then gets out of control drunk at a company party. She makes out with the boss's date and hooks up with another colleague while her husband is there. Fast forward. She's dating this colleague now and their relationship is causing disciplinary measures at work. They decide to double down and sign a new lease together anyways. She then lies about getting poached by a customer to leverage a raise, and when it doesn't work she actually has to quit. Her boyfriend then follows suit by not showing up and ghosting the company. Now he's a stay-at-home stepdad. Oh, did I mention she has 3 kids, after being with this girl for 6 months and they both don't have a job. Kind of a 2-for-1. My coworker was dating a woman in our QA lab who was married but supposedly separate. They hook up and date for a couple of months, then she calls him while he's at work one day and admits to him that she slept with her husband the night before. He rages out, punching inanimate objects in the locker room and screaming. That was about 6 months ago. Fast forward to a week ago, we have our first ever company awards party. Very nice shindig, everyone is dressed to the nines, the president and VP of the company are there. He shows up seeming okay. But within an hour and a half, he's absolutely shit-faced. The woman he was dating is sitting a table away from him, they're both yelling and wooing at inappropriate times. He goes up behind the head of maintenance and engineering, bear hugs him, and picks him up off the ground. They asked him to take a couple of days off. Since we make alcohol, they're always very patient and give second chances when employee behavior involves booze, to which he refused. Called him the next morning and told him he was fired. Can't imagine throwing a fantastic job away because of your constant, belligerent behavior. In this case, it wasn't a super quick way to lose your job, but a series of seemingly unstable behaviors. My rich uncle destroyed his life by getting drunk and killing a woman with his car. For backstory, my uncle was a very successful corporate lawyer. He had it all. Beautiful family, multi-million-dollar mansion, fancy cars and constant vacations to any exotic place in the world he felt like going to. That all went away when he got blackout drunk at a holiday party with the law firm and ended up hitting a young woman with his car, dragging her body for a mile or so, and then running/hiding from the cops. The girl was killed, and in his drunken stupor he must have decided it was a good idea to speed at 100+ mph through the city with her body mangled on the hood. They found him later on hiding in a parking garage, cowering in the corner. He had abandoned his car as it was completely totaled after he hit a tree trying to flee. He bailed on foot. The guy was always very arrogant, and even now as he serves his time in prison, he got off super easy considering he killed somebody. Having connections and wealth will do that. He doesn't show much remorse for the family of the girl he killed. He is mostly bitter that nobody wants to go visit him. He whines about it apparently. I will never look at him the same again. The girl he killed was a 23-year-old immigrant from Mexico, with dreams of being a nurse, and she was taking classes for that, until his arrogance ended her life. There's so much more I could share about the circumstances surrounding this that would make people's blood boil. He lost his career, his family lost everything they had basically. And worst of all, he ruined another person's family, and yet he hasn't learned his lesson. A coach at the school I worked at led the boys' basketball team to state and was awarded Coach of the Year. Comments on the post about his award started filling up with sexual assault accusations from former students. Obviously an investigation was immediately launched and he shot himself in the head by the end of the week. Literally went from being awarded and praised to dead by suicide within days. Left behind a wife and 2 young kids. My husband had a nice job as a high-level retail manager, before his store closed. He became a lead for less dollar in an inventory company. He was generally considered to be a nice, but quiet. You'd see more of his personality when he was working on computers, self-taught, or video games or pool. General consensus was that he was a good guy, always ready to game with the kids. Less than a month after our 6th anniversary, I found a video on our tablet from a hidden camera in our bathroom that showed my 14-year-old niece nude. It looked like he kept the image on the cloud and would add it to whatever device he was using and then delete it. He just missed that last step. I called the police immediately and he never came home again. They found more images on his computer and a 20-minute video, full front view of his face, as he tries to hide the camera. He pleaded guilty and received 40 years with 34 suspended. He will have to register as a sex offender and has some pretty stiff rules to follow: no alcohol, no items that can connect to the internet unless he pays for a company to put monitoring software on every internet-accessible device. The day I found it, I sent him to work with a kiss. I found the images around 11:30 a.m. and had surrendered the tablet and gotten the case started with the police by 11:45. I have told every relationship I've been in, husband included, that the one thing that will make me turn you in and walk away and never look back. He truly thought I would never leave him and was all surprised Pikachu face when I kept my promise. His actions caused him to lose everything he took for granted that he would always. Our daughter was 5, then, and for her he just disappeared one day. Now, I am watching her grow and mature into a beautiful person, and he doesn't get the privilege of even knowing this beautiful child. I'm sure that separation has hurt him a lot, but you don't get trusted with any child, even your own, after you do something like that. Good riddance. 34 years suspended sentence *. A guy I worked with at Papa John's when I was in college bought a gun from a coworker. Our other coworker got robbed delivering a pizza. He told me he wants to see if it works. He went and shot it into an empty developing neighborhood into some trees. The bullets hit a house behind the trees with a family and kids. Nobody was hurt, but they were scared to death. Police immediately came and arrested him before he could even pull off. They were camping out in that neighborhood already since people were coming at night to smoke weed. Have sex and shoot guns SMH. He shot 3 shots. Got 25 years in prison for attempted murder and reckless endangerment. First time ever shooting a gun. We were only 19. This was in 2006. I think about him a lot. We weren't close like that. But he's still in prison over a 5-second mistake 17 years later. Really nerdy kid too. First time ever in trouble. I follow his sister on Facebook. He's unrecognizable now. Imagine Cloven from Superbad who looks like Jason Momoa now with tats on his face. Sad. Also, my roommate a few weeks later was struggling financially and decided to buy 2 pounds of weed to sell with his student loan refund check. Got pulled over and arrested the same day. Got 5 years. Can't make this stuff up. Thanks again for watching or listening. Whatever suits the situation. I do very much appreciate you. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. Until next time.